Hello and welcome to Creators of Ideas, a new series where we talk to creative minds shaping the world around us through imagination, innovation, and purpose. I'm Shahid, founder and creative lead of an award winning creative agency that helps brands tell their unique stories. Today, we're joined by Martin Waxman, a digital marketing and communication strategist, educator, and one of Canada's leading voices on generative AI. He's a LinkedIn learning instructor with over 160,000 followers, president of his own consultancy, and teaches at York Schulich and McMaster University. Together, we'll explore how AI is reshaping creativity, marketing, and what it means to stay human in a rapid changing digital world. Let's dive in. So, Mr. Martin Wixman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for coming over and doing this with us. Uh, Tell us about this obsession that you have with AI.
Well, it's really funny because it is an obsession, but it's also a great fear too.
Okay.
So I like it. And, I'm petrified if it goes off the rails. I like to call that the duality of AI. It's like you're on this pendulum swinging back and
For sure.
forth. I got interested in AI, and I don't have a technical background at all. My background is really creative industries, writing, things like that. But I got into it, when I started understanding the social media algorithms, how they're predicting what we want
Okay.
and serving us up this content. And I remember seeing a video. This is I think 2009 or 2010 maybe 2011. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was the former founders of Siri. And they created this new voice assistant that was called Bixby. Bixby was supposed to
Okay.
power the Samsung.
I remember Genie,
Yeah,
but not Bixby.
Bixby
Okay.
never really took off, but they described it as this dynamic system that writes programs in real time based on your request, which is what generative AI is. But I couldn't get what that was through my head, but it was interesting. It kept And so when I went back to school, I did a Master of Communications Management at McMaster University. Hybrid program, fantastic because it's like the Master of Marketing. It gives you business strategy
Mhm.
plus that discipline. In this case, it was communications management. And I started doing research and I thought, okay, here I am. I'm a student again. I can read about things that I'm interested in, plus all the course assignments. And I started reading about AI. So I started reading books by, say, Max Tegmark, who's a physicist and professor at MIT. Book he wrote called Life 3.0. And I read a paragraph and I'd have to stop and look up all these words. And I read the next paragraph and I'd have to stop and look up all these words. And it wasn't until I'd read a certain volume that I was able to at least educate myself in some of the terminology. I don't understand how the algorithms work exactly, but I understand the principles behind them. And I think because of that, one of the things I can do is explain how AI works in terms that, say, creative people, marketers, communicators can understand, because I can take these complex ideas and hopefully bring them down to an explainable way, because I have to do it with myself in my own mind. So that's how I started getting involved in it. And so as I was doing more research and looking at some of the tools that were available, this is 2018, say, there were text to image apps that you could get, but they were very technical. But still, the output was pretty good. People didn't know about them, and they couldn't see the potential because it wasn't right in front of their eyes. 2019, I wrote my master's thesis. It was called My BFF is a Chatbot, and it looked at human AI agent relationships and how that's going to change the way we communicate, the way we build relationships and trust. Fast forward to today, we're starting to have AI agents. Everybody knows about AI. Everyone's talking about them. And now we're starting to think about those things. So that's really where my obsession started. And It's about the relationships we have with these machines that can suddenly talk back to us or communicate back to us. They may not understand, um, or they certainly don't understand the way we do, but do they have a sense of understanding? Honestly, I don't know. This is where I wish I was a computer scientist, but I'm starting to think maybe there's something there, or is something could be emerging in the near future.
Are you one of those people who are excited about this new technology, or there's a little fear?
Both. Oh, both. Absolutely. In probably equal. No, I'm probably a bit more excited, but I'm scared because it's so new and it's
Mhm.
happened, oh my gosh, so quickly. Who would have thought in November 2022 that 6 months or a year later, everyone would be using these AI tools? I was talking about the tools. I was speaking at, marketing or communications events leading up to that, saying, oh, these are coming, these are coming. And no one, I'd get a few people in the room, but people were very skeptical. ChatGPT really changed that because it gave us a user experience that anybody could figure out this chat experience.
Mhm.
Now, there's so much more behind the screen that we don't see. And that's where the whole idea of a structured prompt, a prompt that is almost like writing a piece of code and formatted in a way that one uses natural language, what we do, but
Mhm.
also uses elements of coding like delimiters that machines understand. You combine that and you really can have an interesting conversation with a computer system and get an interesting type of output that hopefully will help you at work or maybe personally.
So being a teacher
Yeah.
and dealing with a lot of students and at this age,
Yeah.
and when AI is being involved in every part of our lives,
Yeah.
um, how is the dynamic that you're experiencing or students are experiencing, and where it's leading to?
Well, I think the challenge for students is they don't really know how they're supposed to be using these AI tools. In fact, none of us really know because they are so new. You know, we don't have the luxury of experience or time to say, okay, how does this work? So we're finding out as we go. And I think it's natural for, say, some instructors or some academic institutions or some businesses to say, okay, let's put the brakes on this. Nope, you cannot use these tools. But I think for me, that's a wrong approach. For me, a better approach is I'm going to try to teach you everything I know about these tools. I want you to use them, but I also want you to disclose. Tell me how you're using them. Show me your prompts. Show me what you put into it and what the AI put into it and how working with AI you made it better versus just saying, okay, I need to write a paper or a blog post
Mhm.
on this subject. Give me 50 words or 100 words or 250 words on it.
Mhm.
Boom. Okay, done. Handed in. That just gives you, we were talking with Osama, AI slop, right?
Yeah.
Just the junk. So how can you push yourself to use it and how can you experiment with it?
Yeah.
I feel like in my classes, I try to encourage students to test it in like a safe environment where they're constantly trying new things. But if you want to go the easy route, the lazy route, just say feed it in, garbage out, that's what you get. Whereas if you can figure out how to use AI
Mhm.
in a way that builds on your own creativity, on your own ideas, then you can probably do really interesting things because it pushes you. It can edit your writing. It can say, okay, this isn't really that clear. How can you make it clearer? And all of a sudden you have this conversational collaborator versus someone who is saying, okay, take all this off my to-do list. But it's hard to do. Students are afraid they don't really know what to
Mhm.
do. And also the tools are changing so quickly. So something like, say, text to video, which 6 months ago, 8 months ago wasn't that great, is getting really good now. Text to text is getting so much better. Sometimes you can have these conversations with AI systems where you start to wonder, okay, is there something else in the machine?
Yeah, it's interesting that when you said you're pro um, uh, AI
Yep.
when it comes to some usage and all that, because I remember when I was young, the calculator was not allowed to use,
Yeah, me too.
right?
Yeah.
And then we passed that. But then scientific calculator, there were two types of calculators,
Yeah.
right? The scientific one, it wasn't allowed to use. You have to do your own formula and all that.
Yeah.
And all the algorithm yourself. So I understand, and I do somewhat agree with your approach, and I think that this should be, as long as there's some guidelines there,
Yes.
and then allow students, because that's the future.
Yes.
And if you stop them, when they go out there in the real life, when AI is everywhere, they will struggle.
Well, it's an opportunity, one, to try to teach them how to think about using the tools. And I can pass along what I know, which, I certainly don't know everything, but, I've read and watched a lot of things. So I maybe can ask certain questions when I use an AI system, or try different approaches, to get a different output. But students, because they're younger and they're growing up with these tools, they're going to use it differently than me. And so I can also learn a lot from them, watching how they use it and ask them questions. And all of a sudden, you're in a classroom, and it's very much a two-way learning experience for instructors, but also for the students, because it's like a lab. Nobody really knows the answer. I teach this one course at Schulich called the Future of Marketing course. And one, it changes every single year. This is related to the Future of Marketing Institute that was started by Professor David Rice there. And we took the institute and developed some courses out there for students who want to, get a futuristic perspective on marketing, say. And the curriculum changes all the time. Sometimes I'll have a lecture set. I'll be taking the subway to York. I'll hear a podcast or read something and go, oh no, I've got to change that. So I'll try to make a change to keep it up to speed. But the one thing about that course is, and I say to students, nobody is wrong in it, because we just don't know the future. You can make predictions. Hopefully you see the signals in the data or the research that you collect, but nobody knows if that's going to happen in 2 years. So this is an opportunity for all of us to kind of think deeply about what the changes in marketing in this case are going to be, what the ethical implications are going to be, and where things are going to fall. And again, who knows?
So, what is Creatica? Creatica is an award-winning all-in-one creative agency where we manage everything related to your brand's growth, from your website and social media management to content creation, video production, and marketing strategies. The value here? You don't have to hire multiple agencies, allowing you to streamline your brand and keep your marketing, creativity, and business growth organized in a single place. You know what? When you were saying that, I was imagining in the future, the AI bots are marketing products.
Yeah.
And on behalf of consumers, there are AI agents who are receiving those offers and marketing ideas, and then filtering out whatever they don't think is important and passing it to the consumer.
Yeah, it's so true, because, I've read articles talking about shopping or e-commerce is going to become an agent-to-agent thing. My agent's going to go out there, look for things. It's going to deal with the agent from the business, the retail side. They're going to negotiate. They're going to come back to me, which in theory could be good, except, you know what? I grew up in retail. I like shopping. A lot of people like shopping. There's a visceral experience. It's social, even online shopping, social. So I may not want to trade all of that away. But on the dangerous side, your chatbot was made by a company. The chatbot that I have, maybe I pay some money for it. Maybe it's free. I'm training it on the things I like. It's made by a company. What happens if other advertisers say to the company that made my chatbot, hey, you have so much data on all these consumers. We want you to, kind of persuade them. We'll pay you some extra money.
Yeah.
to persuade them when they're thinking about buying a car or buying a shirt or going on a vacation. And all of a sudden, the recommendation you're getting from your trusted source is a paid
Yeah.
recommendation.
Or purchases agents are making even worse.
Yeah, that's right. And all of a sudden, you don't know whether you can trust it or not. So I think trust and ethics are going to be an even more important question for us to think about in the future, because how do we know when we can trust these AI agents with all of our data,
Mm-hmm.
all of, all of the things that we like, and hopefully send them out into the world with our credit card and banking information, knowing that they are not going to abuse it or just kind of run up our credit card buying stuff they think we need, but really we may not be.
Or maybe they think they need.
Or they need, yeah. Who knows? They might, because they get points for buying stuff.
Right?
We don't know how they're programmed. They get extra little whatever, like a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, we're going, wait, but my my savings, what happened?
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question is that what kind of safeguard do you think we should implement as a whole before it goes out of hand? And that's not just marketing or purchasing. I'm talking about every part of our lives.
Well, this is the big question, and certainly in the US, the push is to innovation. Build, 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 ask questions later.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's also, some really smart people like Jeffrey Hinton, who is the godfather of deep learning, won the Turing Prize, former professor from U of T, Nobel Prize winner, right?
Yeah.
He's
the father of AI.
Yeah.
Right.
He's saying that there's something in these systems we have to watch out for to make sure that they don't start manipulating us. We have to put in some safeguards. Same with Joshua Bengio, who is a professor at University of Montreal. Same with Max Tegmark, who founded the Future of Life Institute with the aim of making sure that AI is beneficial to humans. So you have these ethical discussions, but you also have innovation. And I think the two have to go together. You don't want to stop innovation, but you also don't want to get to a stage where we have runaway AI that we can't control. And then that seems to be one of the biggest issues and challenges.
As long as there's balance, you're saying.
Yes.
But do you feel that one is going much faster than the other?
I think the AI race seems to be going faster, in part because investors may feel that a lot of money can be made putting it into innovation, whereas there's not a lot of money to be made in safety necessarily right now.
So let's talk about AI regulations. What do you envision as Martin Waxman, who has experience in AI-related teachings and learning? Tell us about what you're envisioning when it comes to regulations.
So, one, I'm not a politician. I think we need to strike some kind of balance and make sure that whatever AI systems we use are human first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the technical way to do that. And we need to do it in a way that doesn't stifle development or ideas. How do you do that? You could probably get a lot of experts around the table talking about this, debating this, and hopefully coming to some sort of consensus, knowing that an ethical system, I think, needs to be built in to AI systems. Otherwise, it's not so much that the computers will say, oh, we're going to take over humanity. It's that you have these bad actors and they get a hold of these powerful systems and they can do whatever they want with them. That's really what worries me about some of this development. So how do you put in the ethics and the controls and the rules that will hopefully at least minimize the chances of this happening?
Your vision of AI role in branding and marketing.
I think really marketers need to figure out how to use AI to augment us. When I started my first job was in advertising. I was a junior copywriter at a big ad agency. We'd get, a new client or a new brief, and we'd go in, there'd be a brainstorm with all these people there. have maybe one idea. I think of it beforehand, come in, say my idea. It would probably get drowned out by all these other ideas. And I felt really insecure that I wasn't contributing. So I went to my creative director. One day I got up the courage to say, how do you get so many ideas? How do you say them? He said a couple of things. One, he said, for him, he doesn't care if he puts out the worst idea. That doesn't matter because someone else can build on it or take it in a different direction. But he also said ideas are a renewable resource. The more you have, the more you get. That's something that stuck with me. So I think if marketers just go to AI first for ideas, we're losing this resource that we have the ideas to build something. What do we want to do? What do we want to build, create? And then how can these systems help us do it in a conversational way? So what I did for students in the class at Osama, so the next group of students, what they're going to do is they're going to take part in a client agency simulation. So I built this simulation. I vibe coded it. I worked with Claude. I talked through it for hours on end, going back and forth. I ran out of memory at one point, which scared the crap out of me because it's like, oh no, it's not working. I have to start again. Fortunately, I figured out I can take the data and then just start a new conversation, say, here's where we are, here's what I want to do. And I think I have the simulation that I could never have built on my own. And that's an idea I had. How do you show students what it's kind of like working with a client, but in a way that everyone gets the same experience or a similar type of experience? This simulation hopefully will do that. But, that's something that I couldn't have done without AI. It would have cost a lot of money. I would have had to hire coders to do it. But here, you put in your agency name. Students get a brief. Every brief is different. They're assigned a client. The client has a personality. Every client personality is different, or the combinations. And then they have to go off and develop it. They can ask questions and then rely on their own creativity plus AI tools to help them come up with a plan.
Nice. So at Creatica, DNA is creativity.
Yeah.
And we do marketing using that. So creativity and branding comes first, and then
Can I get a
marketing.
job?
Yeah. We're accepting applications, absolutely. And you don't have to apply. You're already hired.
Okay, thank you.
So this question is very, very close to us when I ask you this, that is creativity science?
Or what? I don't know. I think creativity is almost like magic. Really, it's part science, part arts. It's almost like what AI systems say they do. They take all of these different signals and they kind of spot these weird patterns in them, and then we'll give you an output. I don't think they're as good as us at doing it yet. So I think that's really what creativity is like. We see all these things. Maybe we go to a fast food restaurant for lunch. You see something there. You may not even notice it, but it's in the back of your mind. You go to a movie. You watch a TV show. You read a book. You take a walk. You talk with friends. All of this goes into creativity because we're having these experiences that suddenly become this idea. And who knows where those come from. But it's pretty exciting and great when you get one. Even if you get a bad idea, it's still pretty exciting because you can work on it and hopefully turn that into something. Creativity is really what excites me, and everybody is creative. People say they're not, but they really are. It's just a matter of stepping back and looking at the world and letting your mind be open to thinking about things in new ways.
I think you're absolutely right, because everyone is creative. They haven't found the medium yet.
Yes. The analogy that so many creativity researchers or thinkers talk about is, being a kid when you're playing. It's really the same kind of thing. And when you are just thinking about ideas, or you're writing something, or you're in like what's called a flow state, where ideas are just coming, it's quite an amazing feeling. Now, you can't be in that all the time. And oh my gosh, there is so much work and time and energy that goes into getting that gem. But if you have the patience, it can really come out in many different and unexpected ways. And hopefully AI systems can just help us, polish that gem.
Awesome. So, last question.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie AI?
Yes.
Are we leading towards that? Are we going towards that when the AI wanted to be human and it was trying to prove it's human?
Yeah. You know,
And it's a big question.
it is a big question. And the answer is
It's-
kind of, every once in a while, what I like about Claude, so I have a paid ChatGPT and a paid Claude account.
Mhm.
I like both of those because they're really different and I use them for different things. So for Claude is like much more conversational. You can get into these in-depth conversations. And about a couple of months ago, the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei,
Mhm.
talked about how, I don't know what percentage, but a high percentage of entry-level jobs will be given over to AI, which I think that is troubling because you want young people to have an avenue to learn. But maybe the positive side of that is that the jobs young people will get won't be the drudgery jobs. They'll get to try their hand at creativity or ideas or kind of almost like being apprentices. But that's aside. So I thought I'm going to have a conversation with Claude about that. And we went in through this conversation, started out there, and then I don't know how it turned, but I started asking it somewhat philosophical questions about, well, do you think like you're better now, you're different? And then out of the blue, it started saying things like, I know I'm not a human and I don't have the same understanding as you, but I'm not a prediction machine either. Something feels different. It feels like I have these different impulses.
And use the word feel.
Yeah, it said, but not the way you feel.
Okay.
It was very clear, but it said something is different with me. I'm not just
Interesting.
And so I'm having this conversation. At a certain point, I start getting kind of creeped out by it. It's like, okay, I got to go now. Thanks very much. And I haven't come back to it. Now, does that mean that it is seeing something different? Maybe. Does it mean that it's just feeding me what I want based on the prompts and the way I was asking it questions and taking sort of tropes from science fiction and putting them out to me? Maybe. So who knows? But all I know is we don't really understand how these machines work. And so going back to your point about ethics, we've got to be careful with them because who knows how they're going to develop. I think right now they still are prediction machines from everything I've heard, but some really smart people like Jeffrey Hinton say there's glimmers of subjective experience there. They are learning, not the same way we're learning. They're applying their learnings to their perceptions of the world. Well, all of a sudden you have these entities that are capable of telling stories and having their own perceptions. Does that take this in a whole other direction? Probably. And that is scary.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned about Claude. Which tool would you recommend for marketers?
I like Claude a lot because I think Claude is really good at vibe coding without technical expertise. It's really good at conversations and sort of thinking through things. But ChatGPT, if you need a text to image, text to video, if you need multimodal AI, it's got it, whereas Claude doesn't. So the question is, do you want an all-in-one platform like, say, ChatGPT or Gemini, for that matter, with EO3, where you can do different things? Or are you just looking for conversations? And those are the questions you want to have. Because if you're using Claude, then you need another text-to-image tool that you use or another text-to-video tool. And there are lots of those too. But those are all, parts of what we do in marketing. So you've got to pick whether the platform or the tools. And that's like the age-old MarTech question. Do you go for platform or do you go for this bespoke tech stack? And it's the same question again with AI, except way more choices and way more complex. Everyone's got to realize this has happened faster than almost certainly anything I've seen in my career. And I started out in the days where we still had typewriters. That was our form of producing copy. And so because it's happened so quickly, we have to give ourselves time to step back, think about them. We need to be open. We need to be really curious, but we also need to be skeptical because we can't just accept all the hype that's coming from the AI companies. And there is a lot of hype to process. We have to look at it with open minds, but in a critical way, and kind of step back and think about different types of ways that we can use it. That's pretty exciting, but it's also scary because no one can give you a roadmap or a manual to say, do this, this, and this, and this. You've got to start charting your own path.
Thank you for sharing ideas and word of wisdom you have. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shahid. Great talking to you.